And hello out there, Caniac Nation. Thanks for joining us for session 65 of CaniacSessions. I'm Griff.
I'm Brandon.
And we are without our good buddy AB tonight. Unfortunately, he's got his nose in the books, trying to get ready for those finals.
I'm really glad he's not going to law school, though.
Me too, man. Me too.
If he was my attorney, I would just give up. I would just say I did it, even if I didn't.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Good old AB, man. He's he's got finals this week. He's still in school, so good luck, AB, with your finals. And I think he's done after tonight, right? Isn't that what he said?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be back with us after that. Maybe he'll pop in. You never know. Sometimes he'll say he can't come, and then all of a sudden he'll show up. So
that is
we'll
true.
see if he pops in. But anyway, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing good. I get to see you in 1 week.
Yes, that is right. I'm making the trip up to DC for the Canes and the Capitals at Capital One Arena. Was that next? That's a week from tomorrow, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Pops is joining me.
Yeah, Pops is joining me. We're going to come up early. We're going to get there early, hang out all day, and then hopefully remember the game.
Yeah.
And just have to drink responsibly.
Well, I've got all my control groups in place between my girlfriend and Jeremy and
there you go,
everyone else. So I think I'll be all right.
Yeah. Me, Pops, and then my brother who lives up that way. We're all going to meet up there, and it should be a good time. And hopefully, we leave with the win.
I think we will.
I hope so. And what we're going to talk about it. There's some things that the team's got to do, right, to get better. We need to improve the play, right? The play on the ice has to get better. We've been in a kind of a rough little. Well, maybe not rough at times, but we've been inconsistent for sure. And we'll talk about it. But first things we're going to do is there's a little bit of news since we last met. One of those being the signing of Dustin Tokarsky off of a professional tryout. We know he signed the PTO in Chicago, had a really good run. I believe he's 4-1. He had 2 shutouts, with the Wolves. And that was good enough for the organization to sign him, and then immediately brought him up to Raleigh and put Spencer Martin back with the Wolves. And this is a guy with a little bit of experience. I mean, I wouldn't call him a NHL regular through his career, but he's got just under, I believe, 100 games. Throughout his career, he played a third of the season with Buffalo a couple years back. Had several games with Pittsburgh last year. So, this is a capable guy. And, he's 35 years old. This is kind of his, this is like last shot here. So I'm sure we're going to see him sooner rather than later, right? I think we got the back-to-back coming up. When is it? A back-to-back right with Jersey.
Yeah, we've got the back-to-back with Jersey, and then we've also got one right after Washington with the Rangers and the Preds.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to see him at some point for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. But your thoughts on the ever popular topic surrounding this team and the goaltending situation? Do you think we should basically see what Tokarsky has, or do you think the team should have probably gone another way?
Let's see what Tokarsky has. The reason why I say that is this team prioritizes depth at pretty much every position. You might as well do the same thing between the pipes. So February is when Freddie's projected to be back. And if you think about it, that's not that far off, especially considering the league's going to be on pause for 2 weeks in February, basically. So you've got a little bit more of a window to get him back. And then once he's back, your goaltending depth chart has become Freddie Anderson and Pyotr Kochetkov, Dustin Tokarsky, and Spencer Martin. Spencer Martin, when he's used in doses, for example, he was getting the job done. It's when the workload got heavy is when he started having problems helping the team win games. When you add Tokarsky in there, you've added a guy who's number 2, will eventually be number 3 when Freddie comes back. It's a win-win. It definitely cannot hurt us. But we have goaltending depth now that doesn't involve us having to call up Yannick Peretz.
Yeah.
And Spencer Martin, we probably won't have to see him again, hopefully. So this is nothing but a positive outcome, and you didn't have to expend any assets and trade to go get him. You just had to sign the guy.
Yeah. I think you're mostly right there. I say that assuming that Kochetkov is going to continue. Well, I don't even know if I want to say continue, but if Kochetkov is going to play like a number 1, I'm not sure he has. I mean, since he's been back from the concussion, I don't know if he has played like we know he can. I think he's been letting in. I think he's good for at least 1 soft goal a game lately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the regular season. I get it. And really the team's been bad in front of him too, a lot. And so, I don't want to put it all on him, but we've seen him elevate his game, higher than it is now. And, if he does that, if he can elevate and he needs to play a little bit better, in my opinion. And, if he can do that, we're fine. But, we've also seen times where he just doesn't play well. And so I think if that's the case, and maybe you need to go, maybe you still need to look. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to happen either way. I think they're going to let Kochetkov just carry the load and, mix in Tokarsky, as we need to. Back-to-backs, maybe rotate him in after Kochetkov's kind of played 4 or 5 games straight, give him a break. But yeah, I think you're mostly right. I agree with that. But we did see that Yanni Peretz got, he was moved from Chicago down to Bloomington in the ECHL. And it was interesting because they, that basically it could be one of 2 things. Either they want him to go down and play games because they were carrying 3 goalies in Chicago, right? They have they had Martin, Peretz, and Kazayev. And so, they elected to go with Kazayev at the AHL level instead of Peretz. And I don't know if that is because, somebody's got to sit in Chicago, and or if they wanted Peretz to go get some time, or if they prefer Kazayev over Peretz. I don't know.
I don't either.
But that's the case anyway. But you were going to say something. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, no, it's all good. So the thing with Kochetkov, as far as how well he's playing, Kochetkov has the thing with his game, it's very binary. It's very 1 or 0. He's either playing really great, and the only thing that makes him look bad is some sort of boneheaded mistake that allows the aforementioned soft goals. That regarding the team and how the team in front of him is playing withstanding, or notwithstanding, I should say. That's the thing with Kochetkov. It's either hot or cold. There's no in between with him. Whereas when you have someone like Freddie, it's like he can steal you a game, but he can also have a consistent night where he stops 30 of 32 and the Hurricanes win. Kochetkov, it's like there's no in between there. There's no nuance to his game. He's either on or he makes really bad glaring mistakes. If you look at all the goals he's had scored against him, you go, wow, why did you come all the way out to the top of the circle to try and poke check somebody, or how did you not have that? There's no in between. Once he gets that stuff out of his game, he's going to be fine. And I think he's made progress in that regard, like a lot. So we don't want him to lose the aggression entirely, because then he won't be good. But he's just got to learn when to rein it in.
I noticed in the last game against San Jose, I specifically noticed a moment in that game where somebody was coming in similar to the play where that he got knocked out in Columbus, except on the other side of the net. And I don't believe the shooter had, a step on the defender like they did in that Columbus game. But I remember a specific instance in that game where I thought, as the skater was going in, this is a moment where Kochetkov would normally come out and try to play the puck, the poke check. And he didn't. He tucked back in to the post. The skater went down across the goal line and around the net, and then the defense ended up, basically separating the puck along the boards, and all was well. Now, a month ago, Kochetkov comes out, poke checks, likely loses his stick. If he doesn't get the puck, then he's floundering around trying to get back to the crease. Next thing you know, the puck goes in the net. Or he knocks the puck down, trips the skater goes into the boards. So I noticed that, and I was like, okay, that's growth. That wasn't a moment where you need to come out and try the high risk, high reward kind of play. And it worked out. So
yeah,
I specifically noticed that, and I thought, okay, we're starting to get to where this makes a little bit more sense.
He did the same thing kind of in the Colorado game too, with the 2 breakaways he handled. Yeah, he got scored on one, but the one where I think it was McKinnon actually that he shut down, he played that perfectly. He came out far enough to challenge. He took away enough of the sight picture of the net, but he didn't try to do anything crazy. When he gets to where that's a regularity with him, I think that we will confirm he is our starter of the future.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on here. I love talking about goalies, but we got a bunch of stuff to get to. So something else that we learned in the first period of the San Jose game on, was that Monday night? Yeah, Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Yeah. Jack Drury blocks a shot late in the first period and kind of falls down the ice, gets up down the tunnel. And we didn't see him return. Post-game, Rod indicated that, he was going to be out some time. And then we learned today after practice that it is, in fact, a broken bone in his thumb. Also, it required surgery, which happened today. Today is December 12th, right? If you're watching live, today is December 12th. If you're listening to the podcast version, if you're watching live, obviously know what today is. But so he had surgery today, and his return is unknown at this point, so out indefinitely. I don't really know how long these types of injuries take, especially when surgery is required. But I did notice, if you watch the, how the team puts out those little post-game locker room speeches that when Rod comes in and talks to the team and he hands out the hat to, the MVP of the game or whatever. If you watch that video after the San Jose game, you saw Drury standing in the background, under the TV in the locker room. And as the camera pans by, you can see him wearing a big black splint on his hand. And so, so I knew at that moment, I was like,
yeah, he's going to be out for a bit.
That's likely broke. And I've got a source that I won't name, but is kind of in with the team and text them and said, hey, well, what's this look like? And they basically confirmed that it was a broken hand. He was going to be out for some time. So that sucks. But with that, we called up a player to come and play in Drury's absence. That was kind of controversial to, amongst the fan base, at least on X, and really some of the media as well. Because if you listen to Adam Gold, if you listen to his Kane's Corner podcast, which I like to listen to after every game, I've got a long drive home from the arena, so usually I just throw it on while I'm driving and listen to it. He talked about that Drury being out, he thought that it was time for Ryan Suzuki to come up and get a shot in Raleigh. And that's kind of what I thought too. We know Ryan Suzuki's having a really, really good year in the AHL. I thought he had a good training camp, up here. And so that's not what happens. The team went ahead and elected to call up Tyson Jost, which, we've seen him here already. And maybe that's, what this is all about. He's gotten a handful of games with the team this year, during the Jarvis injury. And, it's kind of a, a solid fit. You don't have to bring someone up and hope that they basically, gel with the team. What you're going to get with Tyson Jost for the most part. So maybe that's what it is. I was hoping to see Ryan Suzuki, and I still think, why not, like, give him the opportunity to see, see what he's got. I know he's not a fourth liner. He's not, not really your typical fourth line center, but why not? Why not give it a shot? Why not see what you have with him? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think Tyson Jost is the guy, or Ryan Suzuki, or someone else?
So I was also hoping to see Ryan Suzuki. The only reason I can think of, well, in addition to the aforementioned reason that you just made about, we already saw Jost here. He fit in just fine. He did what he needed to do with the few minutes that he had. Other than that, the only thing I can think of, and I don't know the ins and outs of the rules of this, the reason they didn't want to call Suzuki up is they were worried that he might have to go back through waivers when they sent him back down. I was under the impression that you have to play a certain amount of games before that happens, but I don't know for sure in his case, because I don't think he's on an ELC anymore, so he's not waivers exempt, if I remember correctly. So that's the only thing I can think of as to why, or the only two things I can think of as to why they didn't call him up. I personally did want to see Suzuki because he's one of those guys that we need to kind of figure out, hey, is this someone that we're going to qualify at the end of the season, or are we going to let him go, or are we going to trade him? This would have been a good opportunity to do that, I think, but that's the only two reasons I can think of why they did not recall him as opposed to Jost. So that's all I got on that one.
And Suzuki's on a two-way contract. He is not waivers exempt, but he gets 10 games or 30 consecutive days. And Tyson Jost is the same way.
Okay, so that is the case. Okay.
And it could be, that depending on how long Drury's out, maybe Tyson Jost gets his 10 games or 30 days. 10 games would obviously come before 30 days, for a forward. I think the 30-day thing is more for goaltending, but he'll get his 10 games here rather quickly. And then maybe at that point they go ahead and send him to Chicago, maybe bring up Suzuki and let him play his 10 games. Or maybe they just keep, because I don't know if Tyson Jost is up here and then, and runs through his 10 games or 30 days, I don't expect he would clear waivers, going back.
Yeah, you make a good point about that.
I think there's enough teams out there that kind of need the help. And I mean, he's a solid player. So I don't know. We'll see. And hopefully Drury isn't out that long. Hands are weird sometimes, depending on where it's at. We remember 2 years ago in the playoffs, Teravainen, got his hand broken in the Islanders series. He missed the Jersey series in round 2, but he came back in the Eastern Conference Final against the Panthers. That's the playoffs, a little bit different, more you're trying a little bit quicker to get back, but we could see him back in 3-4 weeks with a hand.
That is possible.
It may not be as long as we think. So we'll wait for an update on the team from that, but yeah. But just talking a little bit more about this center situation. Obviously, this organization as a whole is thin down the middle. And maybe not thin as far as numbers, but thin as far as, what's the word here? Ability, skill. I don't know what the word is. Basically a second line center, right? We have, in my opinion, 3 third line centers in Aho. With Drury, Kotkaniemi, and Jordan Staal. And then we're kind of throwing one up. And one could argue that Jordan Staal is actually the 2C based on ice time. I mean, you could argue that.
Mm-hmm.
But between Kotkaniemi and Drury, somebody plays that 2C position, and neither of them are that high-end second-line center that you like to have.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as depth goes, maybe we're fine. But, what is your take on the center position and the second-line center? Is that something that you believe needs to be addressed this year, maybe at the trade deadline? Or is this something you think that, really needs to be addressed in the offseason? Or, do you think it's fine the way it is? Like, I'm just curious what your take is.
Well, it's definitely not fine the way it is. I'll go ahead and scratch that one off the list now. The reason why I say that is like, and I was talking about this with that poll that I did on X the other day. I'm at a loss to understand what the dynamic is between Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Rod, and the organization at this point.
Yeah.
He's getting paid like a second-line center. He doesn't always have second-line center minutes. I felt like he was playing really well until the Columbus game, and I feel like he's not been the same since the lines got shuffled after he had that one really bad period. So I don't know, and this is pure speculation on my part, I don't know what his dynamic is, if they still see him as that player, if Rod still sees him as that player. That's the one question that would have to be answered in regards to that. Like I said before, I never saw Jesperi Kotkaniemi as anything more than a Jordan Staal replacement with a little bit more of an offensive upside. Now, as far as second-line centers go, internal hires, long-term, you have one being groomed possibly with Felix Unger-Sorm, because there's a lot of similarities in his game to Aho, and he could be that second guy in the middle as soon as he develops some more, needs to put some muscle on, because he got absolutely ragged all the times in the preseason. So that's a long-term solution. But as far as like, we need to solve this problem now, if you go to the trade market, you can maybe get someone like Ryan O'Reilly if Nashville continues to struggle, because they're not throwing in the towel on the season yet. They're actually looking at trying to improve the team and not blow it up at the moment, but they've got a very limited window to make that happen. So they're going to have to start selling at some point or another, and Ryan O'Reilly's cap hit is not much bigger than KK's, and he's in the second year of that contract, so you would have enough time to have him in the lineup. That would bridge the gap until Felix Unger-Sorm is ready, if he comes out as projected, and you would still have Jordo for 2 more years, so you would have plenty at the center position at that point if you went out and got someone like that. So that's one option you might have, is something along those lines. Now, What I want to try, and I know that I have been disagreed with this on a multitude of occasions, but considering how he has played this season, I want Necas tried at center.
Ooh.
3 games. These next 3 games. And the reason why I say these next 3 games is all 3 of these games are games that Carolina should win. They're at home. You'll have last change. You don't have to match them up against anybody significant, and you're not playing the best teams over the course of these 3 games. Now, here's the big benefits of Necas moving to center. Oh, actually, before I go into that, if Necas works out at center, because we already know Carolina's going to pay him, he's going to stay. There's no way they're letting him go.
I hope so.
If Necas works out at center, this team is one top 6 winger away from being set for nearly 8 years, maybe 9. You could maybe argue a decade, but for a very, very long time. If he works out there, big if, but if he works out there, it's like, okay, who's number 1, Aho or Necas? Doesn't matter. Where's the face-off? That's basically what it comes down to at that point. And then you can build your top 6 around that. Then you don't have to go out to the trade market and get someone to play a second-line center, because one of the hardest things to acquire in this league is a top 6 center. And the only ways that you get them is either you draft them and develop them, which is what Montreal's plan for Kotkaniemi was, and they botched it. You trade for them and you give up a lot, or you spend a ton of money in free agency. And we're already going to spend the money on Necas anyway. If you move him to center and he works out, then you have solved a lot of issues. And then at that point, all you have to do is open the checkbook. And I'm just throwing a name out here, if someone like Mikko Rantanen or Brock Besser does hit the open market, they're not going to, but just for an example's sake, if one of those guys hit the open market, you're already set down the middle at that point. You still got 2 more years with Jordo, and then you could either trade KK or Drury. I would imagine they would try to move KK just from a salary standpoint instead, but then you would be set right there. Now, one thing that I stated in regards to Necas yesterday, I feel like his defensive game, his overall 200-foot game, his puck management in the defensive zone, all 3 zones for that matter, but particularly in the defensive zone, and his ability to generate entries in tight spaces has improved significantly from last year. If it had not improved, he would not be near the top of the league in points. And then the third and final thing, and then I'll shut up. I know I've been rambling a whole lot here about this. The third and final thing is that even though his goals and his primary assists would go down a little bit, I think he would make up for that mostly with secondary assists, and he would still come out with very, very similar point totals.
Okay.
I have put a lot of thought into this. It kept me awake last night, really.
I mean, very, very convincing argument there, Brandon. I just don't think it. I just don't think. Well, a couple things. One, I don't think Martin Necas is a center. Yes, I agree with what you said about his improved play defensively and like you said, all 3 zones. I agree, very much so. But I think if you take him off the wing and you put him in the middle, I think a lot of that improvement goes away immediately, and he immediately regresses, and then you kind of turned off whatever it is that's been fueling him up to this point this season, in my opinion. I know, I know what you say as far as, see what you got, see if he can do it, because if it works out, like you said, it could set him up for, X amount of years. But I just don't think he's a center. And I think Rod knows he's not a center. And I think and I've been saying this ever since, the off season. I think Necas just needs to own the wing. And I feel like he has. Like, just own it, be the best right wing forward you can be. And score your goals. Set your teammates up. And that's what he's doing. And I think the capacity that he's playing in right now is what provides the best help to this team, I guess. And, I think hopefully Felix Unger-Sorum develops into that. And then, like you said, we have homegrown talent right there. But if not, you might have to just go get one in free agency. And we see other teams do it. So, I don't know. I don't think it needs to be addressed this season unless you get to the trade deadline and, you're staring down first in the division, or, maybe not even that. Just maybe you feel like maybe your team's playing well, or I'm sorry, maybe your team's not playing so well, but you're in a good spot playoff wise, or maybe you're getting close to falling out of the playoffs. And, you're not playing well, and that's a glaring hole in your lineup, then maybe you go get one to kind of carry you into the playoffs. I think that's the only way you really address it this year. I don't believe we're going to win the cup. You never know, but I think that's definitely an off season. If they don't address it at the trade deadline, then it needs to be addressed this off season. And, they got plenty of money to do it. So
that was part of the rationale about going to get Kuznetsov at the deadline last season, was we felt like we had an issue there, and, it needed to be addressed. And that unfortunately didn't work out as well as we would have liked for it to have.
Well, they didn't even try it.
They really, did. No,
they tried it for like a game or two and was like, oh, never mind.
So this is where I do have to have a little bit of criticism of Rod. I think he's got to turn some of the more offensively minded players loose a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of my rationale for wanting Necas tried at center. Like, one thing that I talk about a lot was when, after the trade deadline last year, we had a line go out that was Kuznetsov, Necas, and Gensel. And I am like, finally, we have a line that makes teams sweat during offensive zone faceoffs. Now, granted, Chatty and Orlov are standing at center ice going, oh, any day now, we're going to have to shut down a 3-on-1 or something.
Yeah.
But as much as I love the defensive mindset of this team, because 99% of the time it gets the job done. But at some point or another, there needs to be a couple of outliers on the overwhelming defensive mindset. Necas, Svechnikov, guys like that can be it. There just needs to be at least 1, 2, maybe 3 players. They don't even have to play together. That Rod just kind of turns, takes his hands off the reins and says, boys, do your thing. And I think him and Nate just kind of have that dynamic now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I agree. That would be my one of my criticisms of Rod, almost said Rich Rod. I've got West Virginia on my mind.
Yeah, because he got named the head coach there. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, of Rod Brindamore, it would be, that. But, I feel like if he releases these guys too much, then I feel like it screws up the entire system that they're trying to operate in. So, but you can tell it's not as strict as it was last year.
Not even close, because like I don't have anything to back this up metric wise, but if I had a way to look it up, if I could afford to like go to Sports Logic or one of them big companies to give me the information, I would imagine that we're probably on pace to have more clean entries by, say, game 60 than we had all season last year and probably the one before.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I guess it would be cool to see. I mean, maybe. I worry that if you tinker with Necas too much, then he might fall off a cliff.
And it's a perfectly valid concern, especially like, hey, he's already made this progress. You don't want him to regress. And then one other thing we have to consider, maybe he doesn't want to play center anymore. Maybe he's like, you know what, I've adapted to playing wing, and he doesn't want to move. Like, everything's going well.
Because we never really heard him come out and say that.
No, that was the thing that his dad allegedly said. A couple of years ago, I remember, I think it was Ryan Hinkle was interviewing him, and Nate just did mention, he's like, I would like to try to play center, but he didn't make like a big deal about it.
Right. I'm saying this past offseason, he never really said that. That was from that interview with his dad in Czech, right?
Yeah. And another thing, I wouldn't put him at center on the power play either. Leave the top power play unit alone. Leave him exactly where he is. So it would only affect his 5-on-5 utilization.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. But you know what? We can sit here and talk about it all day. I don't think Rod's never going to let it happen.
He's never going to. I know I'm pipe dreaming about it. It's like, it's never going to happen. I'm hoping that maybe I speak it into existence, and then if it doesn't go well, then I'll be like, don't blame Rod, blame me. I'll take the heat.
Yeah. Real quick before we continue here, we got a bunch of comments that I've been ignoring, and I apologize, but we've got BTS, not the band. It says yellow. And then he says he knows what you're eating after the show, Brandon.
Yes, Wings won, but that poll was not nearly as close as the Necas at center one. Wings won in a rather large margin.
What was the other one again?
Taquitos.
Oh man, Wings clear.
I love both of them though, but it was just they both look good at the store, so I grabbed both of them. I'm like, I don't know which one to eat, and I'm like, I'll let the audience decide.
There you go. And also, while we're addressing these comments here, for everybody watching on YouTube, or even if you're watching on X or Instagram, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, right? Especially if you're watching on YouTube, just go down and hit the thumbs up for us. We'd really appreciate it, and kind of get this. I feel like YouTube has a hard time getting our stuff out there sometimes, and
the YouTube algorithm is brutal.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get this YouTube channel going a little bit. So yeah, if everybody could just go down and hit the thumbs up. If you're watching on X, if you could just go down and like the video, right? I would really appreciate it. And if you're watching on Instagram, go ahead and give us a like there too. Again, we want to grow this. We've got 3 co-hosts now. Again, AB's not with us tonight, but yeah, I want to keep this growing and going. We're independent now. We're not with the network, so we lose a lot of that network resources. So we really need you guys, listener-wise, to help us out. If you are listening on the traditional podcast form, wherever, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, go ahead and give us a like, or not a like, a rating on that platform. Be honest about it. Drop us a review. I know everybody begs for ratings and reviews, but just give me 30 seconds. I don't care if it's just like, hey, just give me something. All right, enough of that. And then look who else happened to pop in here that's supposed to be studying. AB says, y'all look handsome. Thanks, AB.
We're distracting him too much.
And then he says, Griff switching it up with a beanie. Yeah, it's cold out. And I dug it out this morning and decided to roll with it. Then we got Sam Driscoll in the chat. Says, come on, guys, talk trash talk Tokarsky for me, please. You'll never hear me, and you know this, Sam. You'll never hear me trash talk Eric Tokarsky. Trash talk Tokarsky. Say that 5 times real fast.
No way. I'll bite my tongue, like quite literally, and I want to enjoy my wings here shortly.
Then we got Sam. He says, bite your tongue. Miko will be a cane.
I think he's having some of the same stuff he had last night that compelled him to say some of the stuff he said to us last night.
Oh, partaking in a little bit of adult beverage action there, maybe, Sam?
Yeah, considering the propaganda he was throwing at us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, then we got Catherine Bartlett in the chat. Hey, thanks for stopping in and listening in. She says Miko will only ever be an Av, Sam. Sorry, but the Canes will need to look elsewhere for a scoring winger. Hey, she has been all over X for like 2 days now. Like I said something too. And she shut me down real quick, and we got into a little conversation on X about it. Yeah, I understand. Miko will probably never be a Cane. I get it. However, until ink goes to paper, I'm going to keep a little sliver of hope, no matter who says what. We all have dreams. You don't have anything to say about that, Brandon?
I've just accepted the fact he's never going to leave Colorado. I did that from the get-go. I know I joke about it sometimes, but it's like, it's not the same situation with Gensel in Pittsburgh. So it's like, I've just kind of accepted that that's never going to happen. But we got a pretty good UFA pool coming up, and we got money to spend. So, and our prospect pool is absolutely stacked, which is part of my frustration with Suzuki not getting called up, because I'm kind of like, we are so stacked in the American League. I want to see some of these guys play at the NHL level here and there. I want to get an idea of what we have with them. We have the stacked prospect pool, and I feel like I never see any of them outside of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but to be honest, we've been a contender for 6-7 years. Well, maybe not. Serious contenders for like 4 or 5 years now. And, maybe that's something to do with it. They don't want to backfill the open spots with prospects. Maybe more veteran presence. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I think we're getting to the point, especially next year. I mean, we're going to see a couple of these guys, Nikishin, Morrow, likely, that and who knows what's going to shake out with the forwards. I mean, we got a couple guys on 1-year deals, like Jack Roslovic. Does he come back? Eric Robinson's on a 1-year deal as of right now. Does he come back?
I am
as of right now. Go ahead.
As of right now, I would say Roslovic wouldn't be coming back, and it's not because he's not playing well. It's because of the $10.5 million a season paycheck that Necas is about to get. Robinson, I definitely think, is coming back. I think he's
I do too.
played it. I think they're going to pay him 2.5-ish if he keeps playing this well, and he'll be back on like a 3 or 4 year type of deal. But with Roslovic, it's going to be a salary issue, not a fit issue.
Yeah, I agree. I think Robinson, man, he can play anywhere in the system.
I owe that guy so many apologies. I was not familiar with his game.
Same. I had him written off. I was like, there's no way bro's going to make this roster. And then he did. And then I was like, oh my gosh.
Like, he's actually so good.
Like, what do I know? Sam says, how did you know I was having the same drink?
Don't highlight the next comment.
I will not. Then he says, I also accept the minor Rod criticism. Great episode so far. By the way, boys, always have great content. Everyone needs to watch y'all. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it, buddy. For real.
Yeah. It's just Rod's got to understand that it's not the same as when he was playing. It's a million times faster now. He's got to turn these guys loose a little bit more.
Yeah.
And stop juggling the line so much, please. Let them
That was going to be my next point. That was going to be my next point. Like, I'm all for, some of these games, you come out, you lay an egg in the second period like we've been doing lately, and then you switch it all up in the third. Like, fine. You want to get something mid-game. You want to get something going. You want to provide a spark. And that kind of worked. That's how we came back and beat Dallas a couple weeks ago. He jumbled the lines in the third. I believe we saw first line Martinook that night. Next thing you know, we score 5 goals. Like, that's fine. But then go back to your default.
Yeah.
For the next game. You don't need to send out a team to start the game with dudes that have never played together.
Yeah. And that's got to be frustrating for the players too. Because especially when you play a man-on-man defense like Carolina does, it's like if you've been playing with guys for a while, you have an idea, okay, he's going to pick him up. He's going to pick him up. But then when you're playing with all new dudes, you're like running around all over the place and everything, trying to acclimate to each other. And next thing you know, the lines are in the blender again. Like, he's not nearly as bad as Bill Peters was. Bill Peters would shuffle the lines when we were winning, it seemed like at times. But I just wish he'd chill out on the blender a little bit and maybe go to like a more mild version of the blender. Like, instead of like completely jumbling the lineups, like, okay, I'm switching Jarvis with Roslovic and that's that. Maybe that's all you need at times, something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's just, I just wish he wouldn't just like, names in a hat and throw them out there. And next thing you know, Anton Babchuk is accidentally out there because Rod threw his name in the hat too or something. I don't know.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you want to make a change, if you want to see what you have out of something, if you saw something in practice that kind of made you raise an eyebrow and you want to, give it a look at on the ice, like, okay, do it. But you don't have to adjust your entire forward line. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything. Try it for a shift or two, rotate them in midway through the first. I don't know. Just let these guys work together, learn from each other, build some chemistry. That's going to help you out in the long run, in my opinion. When but we've seen Rod in the past, like, go through the entire season looking one way, and then game 1, round 1 of the playoffs, he goes completely in left field with something else. We saw this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when we ended the regular season? I believe it was like we had Jarvis, Aho, and Gensel playing together.
Yeah.
Remember that when they were cooking, through the
that
end
line
of the regular
was
season?
Remarkable.
And then we never went to it in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand his rationale with it in the first round, breaking it up against the Islanders, but against the Rangers, that line could have extended the series.
Yeah.
Like, that's it's like another thing that I remember he talked about one time so building on that example, training camp, last day of it, Aho, Roslovic, Jarvis were a line. KK, Necas, Svechnikov were the second line. I was like, okay, this is good. Leave it alone. Let's try this out.
Yeah.
And then day of, he jumbled the top 6 up, and I'm like, no, that Aho, Jarvis, Roslovic line, I think that's going to be really, really good. but he said that they were being too fancy. I'm like, I don't know what you mean by too fancy. Or were they scoring? Who cares? So it's like, were they getting scored on? No. It's like that's why I'm like, why did he change this up? And I know I've said this a million times. Aho and Svechnikov do not, and I do not think they ever will have chemistry together.
Not
on
long
the power.
term.
No, it shows flashes here and there. On the power play, okay, that's two of your best forwards. Of course, you're going to front load the top unit, and they're both going to be out there. That's different, though. 5-on-5, though, I don't see it. No, I just don't.
It's not, because it's not there. I did like, so we went to, was it the Sharks game where we had Necas, Aho, and Jarvis playing top line?
Mm-hmm.
I liked that, but I thought they should have swapped Necas and Jarvis. I think they should have put Necas back on the right.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, but
I feel like Jarvis has a little bit more versatility to play his offside than Necas does. I know I'm kind of contradicting what I'm saying earlier in regards to I think Necas is dynamic enough to play center. I know that does sound a little contradictory to that, but as far as like, you know, if someone said put one of those guys on the left wing and who do you think is going to do better, I'm going to say Jarvis in that regard.
Yeah. A couple more comments here, and then we're going to talk about the team for a little bit and about the run they're on, or the lack thereof of run. Sam Driscoll says, would y'all break up the blue line and mix it up? No, I don't think there's a reason to.
No. That is like, if we see that happen for anything other than injuries, we are in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I don't.
That would not be good.
I think especially your top four have played together so long now that I think if you mixed it up, it would. I don't see anything good coming from that.
I don't either. And then as far as the Gostisbehere and Walker pair having the struggles they've had lately, they're spending a lot more time in the defensive zone than they were before because the team in front of them is not retaining the offensive zone as much as they were because they've not been playing that well. Because that pair was specifically designed to be on offensive zone draws, maintain possession, put pucks on net, generate offense in those situations, and then be good enough to defend going the other way.
Absolutely.
They've spent a lot more time. Go ahead.
We're going to get to that in just a minute. Sam Wallace is also with us. He says, hey, guys. What's up, Sam?
Hey, Sam.
And he's got a question. What do you guys think of the Jarvis, Stahl, Martinook line? We're going to get to that, too. We're going to get to that, too. Just hold on to that for a second. But I do want to talk about kind of, which was going to be the main topic of this session. We kind of took a while to get to it, and we've been kind of hitting on it here and there. You know, but the good, the bad, the ugly, right? This team over the last few weeks has just looked discombobulated for a large stretch of time. If we look at the team's last 10 games, 4-5-1 in the last 10, that is the worst. Second from worst in the Metro, only above the New York Rangers, who are 3-7 in their last 10, 3-7-0. Every other team in the Metro has a better record through their past 10 games than we do. Because of our good start, though, we've been able to maintain, our position in the standings. But if this continues, we are going to see teams, if the Rangers figure it out here, which I don't expect them to suck for much longer. I think they're going to get through their issues and they're going to figure it out. But if we don't, we could see them, catch us. They're 6 points behind us right now in the standings. And, we both played 28 games. If they figure it out, we know the type of players that are over there. They could go on a long streak. Absolutely can. With that goalie, you never know. And then, the Flyers are right behind them, 30 points. What if, John Tortorella, we saw what this team did last year. They catch a little bit of fire here and I'm just saying. The Canes are fine right now. They're 3 points from the top of the Metro. They're fourth in the Eastern Conference. They've got 3 games in hand on the Devils, 2 points back. So, they're fine. But if they don't fix this puck management crap that they've been dealing with, and their inability to get in on the forecheck, which is the hallmark of their system, if they cannot establish that and establish their game, for more than just one period a game, we could find ourselves looking up at the rest of the division quick, fast, and in a hurry. What do you think is the issue? Do you think there is an issue? Is it just a slump? Is it becoming a trend? Because I'm starting to lean toward this may be a trend. Maybe there's something wrong. What is it? Are they getting too confident in their game because of their hot start? What is it? What's your thoughts?
Jumbling the lines too much, I think, is the biggest problem. I legitimately think that. It's like roster construction aside, I think that the team is off because they've got new line mates every night. And I know that that's the forwards that are always getting jumbled, but what happens to the forwards affects the guys on the blue line. And once that slows down, the constant with the whole Blendamore thing, once that stops, once we have lines set, they can acclimate, work through issues, I think they'll be fine. I quantify this as more of a slump than a trend at the moment. If we don't win the next 3 games, or I'll even say 2 of the next 3, then at that point you can probably start talking about it being a trend, because we have a lot of important games coming up. The game against Washington, game against New York, and then the back-to-back with the Devils. That could be critical to what the standings are like at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of Metro points, and we're competing with all those guys for that. So I'm just hoping Rod will get the line set and leave them alone. Make little adjustments here and there if you need to, but for the most part, leave him alone. And I think that's going to be one good thing with Tyson Jost coming in the lineup. They're not going to want to bump him up to play more important minutes in the top 9. So I think hopefully we will see Aho and KK being the definitive top 2 guys. Jordo still doing the penalty killing and the shutdown role, of course, because his role's not really going to change. Keep Martinook stapled to him. Keep Jarvis stapled to Aho. I wish they would do it, but they won't. But that's the biggest problem right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that he should leave the lines. I think he needs to have a default set, right? That should start every game. If you get to a point where you need a big third period, you need to provide a spark, jumble the lines, but go back to it. I agree with that. We've seen combinations work. Today's practice lines: Svechnikov, Aho, Roslovic, Robinson, KK, Necas. So we finally get back. Yes, we finally get back to that second line that started the season so great. I think a lot of that is just because Necas he couldn't miss the net. Every time he touched the puck, whether he was shooting or someone else was shooting, it was going in the net. But we saw a lot of chemistry developing between Eric Robinson and Martin Necas. And KK, I thought he was doing a fine job. He had a lot of secondary assists, but a lot of those secondary assists are important. Forechecking, digging out pucks, winning battles along the boards, things like that, allowing Necas and Robinson to do the work that they were doing. And then he, like you said, he had a bad game against Columbus, and that was it. But now Rod's forced to put that line together. And I hope for my own personal satisfaction that it clicks.
I think it will. It's like that line, out of all the ones we had, that one just looked like it had some natural chemistry to it. Like I said, I'm still not big on Aho and Svechnikov playing together, but if that keeps that line together with Robinson, KK, and Necas, sans them trying those 2 out with Svechnikov again, then I'm totally fine with it. It's just the constant changing in the lines is the one thing that has to stop, or this team will not move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Third line, and we'll get to Sam Wallace's comment here: Martinook, Stahl, and Jarvis. And then fourth line, Tyson Jost centering William Carrier and Jackson Blake. Which, that's 3 scoring lines. technically it could be 4 scoring lines with Jarvis playing where he is. But Sam Wallace, remind you of his question. He says, what do you guys think of the Jarvis, Stahl, Martinook line? I think it's fine. I mean, I think it works. If that's what you want to do. I think Jarvis can play that way. He, we've seen him do it. We know he likes to play that way. Because in theory, the way it should work is Stahl and Martinook possess the puck. That line, those two together create more high danger chances, more scoring chances than anyone on the team. So the thought is, if you put Jarvis there, he should be able to finish more of those chances that someone like, say, William Carrier cannot. Or if you put Carrier there, that Martinook cannot finish. Or Stahl cannot finish. Because for some reason, Stahl is not, he doesn't, in his toolkit, doesn't have the ability to elevate the puck when he shoots it. Everything slides into the goalie's pad. So that's the theory. But it doesn't always, I don't really think it works that much. Like, I still don't think Jarvis scores on that line like you would expect him to. I feel like most of Jarvis's points come on the power play. And we just don't see that translate in the 5-on-5 game, in my opinion. Like you want it to. Like the theory is, in Rod's mind, that doesn't translate on the ice. Like he wants it to. But he keeps going back to it. I think Seth Jarvis belongs in our top 6. Whether he likes to play that way or not, he doesn't need to. He's got a bad shoulder for 2 seasons now. Well, last season and then this one up to this point. He doesn't need to be going hard into the boards, trying to dig pucks out on the forecheck. That is required of him when he plays on that line. I think he's a top 6 forward. That's where he belongs. And I think that's where he needs to play. I think Andrei Svechnikov serves better on that third line than Seth Jarvis does. Because I bet you if you go back and look at if you dig out the 5-on-5 numbers of Seth Jarvis when he plays there and Andrei Svechnikov when he plays there, I guarantee you the scoring is no different.
Probably not, no.
So that's my take on it. I mean, again, if you want to put him there, fine. Like, it's not bad. Like, the job still gets done. They still shut down other teams. But it's no different whether Seth Jarvis is there, William Carrier is there, Andrei Svechnikov is there, Jack Roslovic's there. It doesn't matter who you put there. The same result is the same result.
No, absolutely. I agree with everything you're saying there. So when you put Jarvis into a situation like that, or Svechnikov for that matter, I think you kind of nerf their ability to produce 5-on-5 with those two guys. Stahl, Martinook, and whoever's to their right, and we'll just say Carrier, for example, they have the simple yet effective, hardworking job of going out there, blocking shots, forechecking, throwing hits, eating, all that, eating minutes and all that type of stuff. That was part of my reason why I wanted to maybe see Jackson Blake there with Jordan Stahl and Jordan Martinook so he could learn some more nuances to the defensive side of things. But then you don't waste putting Jarvis and Svechnikov down there. So that's, that would be a good learning experience for Blake because eventually I think he's going to move up the depth chart. I think sooner rather than later. And that would be 2 good guys for him to learn from. But at the same time, you would still keep Jarvis and Svechnikov with line mates that would be more likely to produce for them. So this is one thing I was talking about on Landfall Hour the other day. The way that I look at the forwards, I see 5 players who are definitive top 6ers. That's Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, Necas, and Kotkaniemi. And then I see 3 players who are kind of in between that can go up or down the lineup as they need to. I'll give Jesper Fast an honorable mention because if he was playing, he's another one of these guys that I would throw in this category. Robinson, Blake, and Roslovic. are the three guys I say can go up or down. And then everybody else, Stahl, Martinook, Carrier, Yost, guys like that, need to definitively play a bottom six role. Not every line has to operate exactly the same. So that's where I think we would be a little bit better served, is to actually delegate things to where a line knows its job when it goes out there. Like, for example, you tell your top six, it is your job to go out there and win this game by scoring goals and not get scored on in the process. Whereas you have a line like the Stahl, Martin, Carrier line or something like that, and their job is to go out there, make sure the game stays close, kill penalties, all that type of stuff. Because one of the things that when you're a shutdown guy, every time you go back to the bench after you go and do your shift and do your job, you're sitting there hoping, okay, maybe the guys going out there now will do their job and score and make it easier for me on my next shift, for example. Yeah. So that's the only thing about it.
Yeah, agree. All right. So yeah, I just think that, it's nice to have these couple days off here. They had a practice today. I believe they practiced yesterday as well. I believe they've had 2 practices. So I think it's good. I think hopefully they worked through some of these, these issues that they've been having. We see them, I thought in the Sharks game, especially the third period, we saw them trying to get out of those habits that they were developing. Hopefully that carries on into the game tomorrow against Ottawa. But if you play tomorrow night against Ottawa, or tonight if you're listening to this on podcast form, if we play like that against Ottawa, we're going to lose. We got out of that San Jose game because it was San Jose.
Yes.
Right. Play like that against Ottawa. Ottawa's been playing well as of late. Mm-hmm. This is not the same Ottawa team we saw here at Lenovo Center, several weeks back. And we're not the same team that played that Ottawa team.
No.
Yeah, that was during our heater there to start the season. So, hopefully they can put together 3 good periods, 60 full minutes of Canes hockey like we're used to seeing, and, start stacking some wins, because it's not going to get easier. We've got some good, I guess you could say ripe fruit coming into the Lenovo Center here in the next week. And then, it's going to get real tough here real quick. Like you said, through the Metro, we've got very, very important games next week. You got Washington away, very important game in the whole grand scheme of things as far as the Metro division goes. But
yeah, because if you win these next 3 games, you go to Washington, and this isn't just because we're going to be there, I'm saying this, but you go to Washington with some confidence if you win those next 3 games, or like maybe just walk out of them with 5 points even. But it's like Washington, the hard part of their schedule has not happened yet. Their schedule will catch up to them.
Yeah.
But they're not in it right now. December 20th is going to be really important. And then, we got the back-to-back with New Jersey. We got a game with the Rangers, and we don't want them to find their game against us at that point. And then something I'm looking forward to is when they play against Nashville on the 23rd, because I'm going to be posting a lot of memes that day.
Yeah. Just to walk everybody through the schedule real quick, and then we'll get up out of here. But yeah, we got Ottawa Friday night, or tonight as you're listening to this by podcast form. Then Sunday, which is the Metro matchup against Columbus. Then the Islanders, Metro. Then the Capitals, Metro. Then the Rangers, Metro. Then you're at Nashville. Then you get 3 days off for the Christmas break. And then the 27th and the 28th, a home and home with the Devils, both Metro. Then you're at Columbus again on New Year's Eve, Metro. Right. And that takes you through the end of the calendar year 2024. So out of the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games left in 2024 in December. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those are Metro Division matchups. Very, very, very important stretch for the Canes. Very.
And to two of the teams that are ahead of us. And then the first game after the new year is a team that's habitually destroyed us for the last few years.
Florida.
This would be an excellent time to go on another heater, because I would absolutely hate to fly all the way to Florida and I have to sit next to Sam Driscoll of all people. And I want nothing but happiness that day.
Yeah. Sam's not too good when they're losing, is he?
I mean, I'm not either, but I'm just doing that to mess with him. He's my buddy.
I know. I hear you. All right. So, yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, hopefully they recognize the importance of this next stretch and they play like we know they can play. So I'll give you the last thought, and then we'll call it a night.
Rod, please leave the lines alone unless you're going to put Necas at center. That's the only way I condone blending at this point. That's all I've got. And I am going to go enjoy my wings.
There you go. All right. Well, everyone out there, thank you for tuning in to session 65 of Caniac Sessions. If you haven't already, again, go down. If you're watching live, hit the thumbs up, like the video, drop a comment, let us know your thoughts on whatever we've talked about tonight. If you're listening to podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe, drop us a rating, a review, let us know what we're doing well, what you think we could do better. And check us out on social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, all that good stuff. You can follow me on X at M_Griff10. You can follow my co-host over here, Brandon, at The Warning Take. Check out his YouTube channel as well. He's got his own thing going over there. Check out his Jacob Slavin video that he just put out a week ago now?
2 weeks, something like
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Check it out. Great breakdown of Jacob Slavin's game, who he is as a player. Pump that out, share it, all that good stuff. Get that going. Great video. I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So check that out. Check out The Warning Take on X. And then AB, who is with us in spirit tonight, who is studying for his finals. You can follow him on X at AB Caniac Session. This is Caniac Sessions at Caniac Sessions everywhere. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you guys in session 66.
Bye.